Hi.
You're good. Oh my gosh, I kept thinking about our conversation last week, this week, in everything. And I even showed Al a video earlier today of babies talking about, I don't know, it was probably a famous movie clip that I have no idea what it was, because you know how good I am at retaining information on movies.
Right.
Um, but yeah, so very top of mind. Absolutely.
It's
Hey,
it's a weird.
everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Glad to be here today.
Glad to be
Hey,
here today. Sorry.
hey, June 1.
What?
It's June 1st.
June 1st.
Isn't that wild how fast time flies? Hey,
What
we're
is it?
going, it's
What is
quick.
the day? I don't follow it, but there was a day years ago. They said like this day was tax-free day. So by the time you hit this day, then I can't remember something like that. But
I remember that now
it
that
was
you
like
say.
you got like 5, 6 months into the year, and every dollar at that point was paid towards tax. Like it was
Right.
it was just like a picture, right? So I
Yeah.
got you. I don't want to. I don't
So,
know if this is going to work. Let me do this while we're talking to our people out there.
okay. So
Oh, you
welcome.
can't
I'm
see it.
Michelle. This is Tom with, oh, you got a fan.
No,
Fan.
no, yeah, the fan is what you can see, but I have us on the big TV,
Oh,
so I
how do
can
I look?
follow.
Oh,
You look fabulous. Okay, let me take the blur off because
okay.
I'll be able to see any comments better.
Oh, smart idea. Very
So
good. I
here we
love that.
go.
There we go. Oh, yeah, look. There we are. There we are looking at us, looking at us, looking at us,
We're
looking at
on TV. We're famous.
right? Well, it was bound to happen, Tom. It really was. It was just a matter of time, right? Oh, nice forehead. There you go.
Oh, okay, I got to blur everything. My house is messy. Anyways,
Oh,
so
it's all
welcome.
good. Yeah, welcome. Need a fancy hand salute. So like that one's taken, right? We gotta figure something out.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can't hashtag and do all these
No,
things.
I know, right? Exactly right. Exactly right.
Do you remember, because this might be in your kind of vein of stuff, there was a cartoon, it was on the computer, it was on TV, called Homestar Runner.
Mm, not sounding familiar.
It's old. um it was just, oh, this, I'll have to send you a clip. I was thinking about this the other day. I was just thinking, we're talking about time, right? So I was just
Yeah.
thinking like how in this period of time, like this style, whatever. So this was like kind of not early compute YouTube and that, but it was a YouTube thing. And it was
Mm.
basically these guys that designed these kind of quirky, um, um, it wasn't like great like cartoon drawing, whatever, but it was animated. But it was just such a niche thing. It was like Rocky Horror Picture Show,
Oh,
very
okay.
very popular but niche, right? So
Right,
Homestar
right.
Runner, and I don't remember who the guy that was with him. Like they're all like these cartoon guys. I just think about, go, man, time, right? Thinking
Yeah.
certain times we talked about music before. We're going, oh man, like when I was in the '90s, Kiss was the best thing, whatever band, right?
Yep.
And then you get to this age, you go, it's okay, but I like this. You know what I
Oh,
mean? So through
absolutely.
time, we
Yeah.
change.
Yeah. And we're so lucky to have such a wealth of information to gather from. You know
Right.
what I mean? To choose from. Because it seems to me like a lot of things are just repeating themselves now. You know what I mean? Whether it's like you can predict almost every movie you go to anymore, right? Oh, I know how this is gonna go. Seen this before. Oh, last time I saw this, Denzel Washington was that or or whatever, right? So, but we're so lucky, and it's so interesting when you think back, like in our lifespan, and it's such a short period, and how many things that like we both had the color TV come out in our lifetime, right? How amazing is that we've gone from the color TV being wheeled, ours was wheeled in because it was in a big cabinet, right?
Right.
And it was wheeled in, and I was at home. My mom was watching Tattletales. It was right. It was an old show, and it was famous couples that I never knew who they were, but it was famous couples, and there'd be an orange team and a red team and a blue team and a green team. And I'm sitting there in our one rec room, the only room that was allowed to have a TV. The other actual living room had plastic on the furniture, so which is still boggling today, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
when they pulled it in and they unplugged the black and white, plugged in the color, it was just like I was in the Wizard of Oz and Dorothy woke up. You know what I mean? It was so powerful that moment. And then you think about like, did you have a Walkman when you were
Sony Walkman.
yeah, do you remember? They were the shit.
Yeah. And they, I bet you they're like one of these collector things that you probably, if
Oh,
you have one.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then an iPod, it went from that to an iPod where and
Yeah.
there's a zillion things in between. Same as it was one of the littles in my life. I was saying something about the first game that Alec and Robert played, so those are my sons, was Super Mario on the original Nintendo, right? That's to my
Yeah.
knowledge. I don't think that maybe an Atari, actually, they might have had access to an Atari. Do you remember the Atari games?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
The little cassettes you put in.
absolutely. Yep, yep. Or hanging out at the arcade, something you don't hear of anymore, which is
No.
probably, a good thing to one extent or another. Although I do see them at like amusement parks. Niagara Falls has a really big one. In London, Ontario, there's some trampoline parks. Do you have those out there?
Um, we have like these places you go and you play jumping from trampoline to trampoline.
That's where they are. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
then you can go into the bubble ball and you get pushed around, like all these type of action. I
That's so,
know.
I
I'd
don't
be
know about a
claustrophobic.
bubble ball. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, in London they have a couple big ones. They don't here, but they have great big arcades attached. Well, that's how they get you, right? You pay
Right.
for the
That's right. Yeah.
jumping. They give you, $2 worth of coupons, and $50 later, you're on your way out with a leg injury,
Yeah.
right?
100%.
Exactly, exactly. So this week we are talking about where we spend our time. It was so interesting looking up stuff on this topic because I'm like a facts driven sort of person. So I want to share a couple, I'm jumping right in here. I want to share a couple graphs
Right.
just to tweak your interest, and then we'll talk some more. But I think the one is really, really interesting. Hold on here. And so this one, time we spend doing stuff in our lifetime. So there's things that we can't avoid, like sleeping, for example. So 318 months of your life. So this would be your average lifetime is spent on sleeping. Going to school, 43 months. I remember those long 43 months, maybe 42. I'm not sure.
Hmm.
Eating, 72 months, again, avoidable, right? Going or not avoidable. Going to the toilet, definitely not. 13 months, Tom, my goodness. I think some people in this house, they're 15-month people.
100%. That's right.
Right. Looking for lost possessions. I'm probably 13 months in that one, but the average is 12. If you go to the other side, working 128 months, waiting in line 60 months. There's got to be something we can do about that. I'm not sure exactly what better planning may be. I like to go shopping when nobody else is there. Doing housework, another non negotiable. I don't really think I do 48 months, but probably count me in for a solid 45. and then going to the movies. Oh, that's not accurate. Is that accurate for you? How often do you go to the movies?
Well, you know what's funny? Yeah, no, I think this is a snippet down the middle for a lot of things.
Yeah,
As you're going through this, I'm reminding myself and going, when we say housework 48 months, we're times 48 times 24 hours in a day times, let's say, 30 days. So it's not this like 8 hour day.
oh,
Like,
no, no, that's right. It's a whole bunch of 15, 30, or one
yeah. And
hours.
so
Yeah, of course.
looking at this for me, to put it in for me,
Yeah.
the sleeping, that is half true maybe for me. I don't, I
Yeah.
don't,
No, of course. That's, yeah, I don't know what
well,
that
that's
actually is.
because I was just reading something this morning about sleeping. I'm actually fortunate that I'm functional. Like this week, Michelle, if I looked at my Fitbit sleeping thing I
Yeah.
get and not going to deep sleep and all of that stuff, REM sleep, all that. But my average for this week was just over 4 hours a night,
Right. Well, look at
which
this.
it's not
Yep.
healthy, right?
No, for sure. But the real key to the chart is the bottom here where it says time left to live, 233 months. That, like, even if everything here is absolutely accurate, what are we doing in that 233 months that we have that could be our joy time? So here's nerd Michelle. Let me show you this other chart that I found. And I just thought this was interesting because you know how my brain works. So
Yep.
this is comparing all the other countries. Now, full disclaimer, both of these are charts I found on the internet. Are they accurate? Maybe, maybe not, but they're certainly interesting. So I was looking at them and I just found it so interesting. I calculated out like Italy only working 149 minutes. All these are averages of minutes per day. So from age 15 to 64, 149 minutes is 2.8 hours. I like
Yep.
that, right? That is so cool.
And you
And
want to
then,
know what? You know what,
uh-huh,
Michelle? When
yeah,
we were in Greece,
yep,
I don't know if that's far off. They would have in the afternoon, they didn't call it siesta. That's, I think, more Mexico. But they, in the afternoon, in the shade of the afternoon,
yep,
out in their little village patios, they would be playing backgammon and
yep,
drinking ouzo or
yeah,
espresso. Just this chill, laid back, not
exactly.
in a hurry, right?
Yep, exactly right. And it's that whole flow. Even other things that interest me, like, so if you look across the top, you can see all your, like, if you're on your phone, I don't know how clear this will be, but you can see the other things they do as well. Like, I found it interesting, care work or volunteering. So look at Canada's pretty high at 81. Um, Ireland, 132. I can't see Italy all the way because the way my screen is, but that looks like that would be the highest. Housework and shopping. I'm seeing India 160, which is interesting. Is that the highest there? Yeah, I think so. Seeing friends is an interesting one as well because it
Right.
really gives you that social. Like China, seeing friends has nothing. It's like doesn't even have a number in there. That speaks volumes, right? Because they're the ones, of course, they don't see their friends. They're working 315 minutes a year, right? So it's so interesting because it really shows you as communities where their priorities are, right? Where they're spending their time. Like who's got the most other leisure? Let's see. Oh, Norway 183 with Ireland not far behind.
Well, they're in the pubs, right?
Yeah,
But
exactly right. Yeah, I'll share both of these. Um, yeah, I can share the other one too, but I'll definitely share this on the Facebook page because I found it really interesting. And it's a without judgment. it's just collecting data, right? That's what we're doing all the time,
Yeah.
collecting data to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, right? Like, just kind of bit of my journey is that, or and learning through, getting older and thinking about values. So one, I'll get to the second part of what I'm thinking, but the first part was when we were younger, we were told to get a good job with a good pension,
Yeah.
white picket fence, station wagon, two kids, and
Yep.
retire, right? But it was this mindset of like work hard, and then when you're old and maybe you're not able to do half the stuff you could when you're younger.
Yep.
And I almost see culturally a flip in a general sense of that, where there's people like I was telling Michelle about Teresa, my wife is in Iceland right now with her friend for 10 days. Now she's a little bit older, but I know people that have gone traveling. They're
Oh,
working still, so they're not like living on daddy's whatever, but or mom's, but they realize I want to do these things when I'm young. So it's a bit of a reversal, right? And then in that, so putting into that graph that you had, we were not good in there. It said like we were about 54 minutes for personal care. Now,
right.
personal care can be a ton of things. Like
Absolutely.
it could be, you know, doing help, like helping people, whatever it is, right? But it's interesting the cultures from Asian, so you're looking at China, India, and these things that work for pen. They just don't. They work. All they do is work for their $5 a day,
Right.
and but um, they live in this mindset of probably work, eat, like you said, showing their
Oh,
family, unless you're living in a two-bedroom place with 15 of you, there, and even how they related, right? There's been a lot of movies about in China and places like that where how the fathers, even currently, related to their children. We talked before about how in my lifetime, how when I was a child and that, and even fathers of those fathers, they didn't know how to be with the family. They would work,
oh,
come
absolutely.
home, sit in the chair, get my slippers, get my pipe.
Yeah,
So, and I'm not like, I haven't even dissected that, but it's just an interesting thing going, okay, what do you need to do for you to be
absolutely.
healthy, right? And when you mentioned about talking about time, I thought about that. I thought, man, like it's actually really important.
It really is because it ties into everything else.
Yeah,
When you think about like mindset, so it ties in with time because what's your perspective of time? What's your to-do list? How are you
right,
going over that? How are you navigating through things that are going on? I was looking some stuff up and I found this great sentence and it really resonated with me. Balancing essential needs with
right.
activities that bring joy and purpose. That's ultimately what we're looking for,
Yeah,
right? No matter what it is, it can't just be only leisure time, though. It can't be only during times designated for self care, because if you're like, if you're working and then recovering from work and then working and then recovering from work, then it's not good, right? If you're in a job you hate, you see so many people that are in these jobs that they hate, and then they have breakdowns or they have bad relationships, or it comes out in other ways, right? And so a lot of times they'll end up either hating their lives and it's very lonely at the top, or they'll end up having some aha moment and breaking through and breaking away. Hey, Alan. So it's, we've talked before about knowing a number of people who have, and for whatever reason, a lot of times are involved in a church or something that's involved in this, but they'll leave their whole career. One of my kids, or maybe both boys, they're elementary school principal. He was not a super old guy, to my knowledge, anyways. He left everything. His wife left everything. They uplifted their family. They moved away to build wells. It's like, I watch a lot of YouTubers. A lot of you know that. And my big kick I've been on lately is people who are living off the grid. And that's exactly that mindset you were just talking about. If I'm not doing it now, then when? Right? So they're losing that the like they're having more of the minimalist lifestyle, but they're also getting creative. They're not being afraid to try, right? You don't, what did we say last? I don't know if I said it on this or what Zoom, but you don't know if you don't try. And it's really that simple, right? And these guys, and it's just an example, they're all, I was showing, who did I show today? I think it was Xavier. There, no, it wasn't, it was Al. A couple feet
Same thing,
different
same thing.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing, but lankier. There is a guy, and I'm watching this video, and it's this guy that is canoeing and camping all in Lake Superior, all in Canada. It's close to a 1 hour video, and he already had like 30, he put it up one day ago. He had 37,000 viewers already. And it's just like, wow, that speaks so many volumes. Like, for one, he gave up his whole life to do it, right? So he's videotaping what he's doing, but then that many people are that interested. Like, that's, I think I'm crazy sometimes. I'm like, wow, this is me watching, them try to figure out what's on this island or what that rock is, or are those snapping turtles? I get right into it. And then I look at those numbers and I'm like, not alone. Plus, I'm learning lots of different things. But this is what gives me joy. See, what a great analogy. I could either be doing this or I could be watching the news.
Well, and you know what I think? It's so interesting. Again, I'm like you, I dissect stuff, not
Mhm.
to find falsehood or anything, and I
Oh
don't
no,
care,
of
right?
course. Yeah.
I'm, but it's funny you're saying that because I was thinking of these guys. There was two Canadian guys. I have the DVD set here somewhere. I can't remember what the show was
Departures.
called. What's
Departures.
that?
Departures.
Departures.
Yeah. I
And
love it.
so, yeah, and so first of all, this is the thing. So I think of these guys. I think of the guy in the canoe. I might have seen that guy too, by the way, because that's some stuff I kind of look at too, right?
There's
And so I
thousands of
always think, because people, you get that many likes, people, why are they liking it? They're liking it half the time because they wish it was them, right?
yeah, a
And
hundred
so
percent.
so I look at, now this is sound critical. It's not meant to be critical. I'm thinking, I know some people that live off the grid.
Yeah.
Um, they've had to finance, plan, and investigate. Like it's not like, you know, going into the woods and cutting down three trees and
Of
you're good,
course
right?
not. But that wasn't the point of why
No,
we
no, but I'm not saying with you, but I'm saying like the energy and conviction and commitment to doing this
100%.
takes a lot, right?
Yeah, certainly
So in
does.
this whole idea of like when you showed that graph, I don't think I have 2,000 million hours left. I'm teasing, whatever it was, right? Whatever it was, the big thing. But what I've been doing for the last few years, to the best of my ability, is I want to be aware and I want to respond to the best I can to the things that I think that make me healthy. Some of them um, might, in somebody else's eye, may look dumb, right? Like one of the things I've been sharing, I think I told Michelle, I told you about the fire around the house in Alberta I have, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was telling somebody today, I was saying that, you know, I'm going to lose money on that, but the journey that my daughter and granddaughters went through, very, very hard journey. I mean, we would love them back, your family's there, your grandkids, all that stuff, right? But I'm going to lose money. And I don't have tons of money, but I'm going to lose money. But you know what? Money is not the important thing. The important thing, time, is life lessons, because we can, I'm going to use the stubborn man, rabbit ears. You can have a man who wants a good family, a wife to love him, kids to love him, blah, 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 wants to be successful, whatever these things, right? Doesn't invest the energy, the time,
Yeah.
the work to hit that goal, that desire, that want. And then he every 10 years he tells them, I'm going to be successful. I'm going to do ABC, whatever. And that time slips through, and all of a sudden you're 30 and you're 40. I tell my ex-son-in-law this, you're 30, and then 10 years you're 40, then 50. And then all of a sudden then you kind of deflect these dreams. You make excuses, right? Going back to the canoe guy, um, he had this idea, vision, thought, and then he said, what do I need to do this? What do I need to do this? He needed a canoe, right?
Sure.
Maybe, I don't know, right?
Yeah, but I mean that's just one example of tying in something that can make you money that can also give you joy. That was that was the that was
Okay.
that was the point.
Yeah. See, I was just thinking of time. I was thinking like you have to, like, whatever, like right now, if me, we're not going to do this, but right now, if you and me said, okay, what does my day look like today, and
Yep.
what am I investing for what I want my tomorrow to look like?
Are you talking
Personally,
about time or money or what?
I'm talking. Well, everything takes time. So if I'm tired. I was tired before I got on here. So if I want to invest into a healthier tomorrow, I might need more sleep, which is going to take time. I may need more investigating. What you said about these people like that are doing these videos and all that, and traveling or food, cooking, all this stuff, right? They
Oh,
invest
food videos.
time.
Makeup videos are great. It's
Yeah.
not for me, but it's a
Cat
great
videos.
way. Oh, we talked about, yeah, the guy that taught kids how to do dad things or whatever. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy. You can like, or then being an author is something you can do. It can give you joy,
Right.
create an income. Being an instructor, whether it's instructing in a book form, in a video form. Another
Right.
thing that's interesting, a lot of people are doing, and I'm on some lists, but I've never actually applied for a job. But it's voice actors. That's a really like anything digital or anything like that. Somebody's saying those words, and a lot of times it's for yeah, we're crazy, Alan. Sometimes it's for audiobooks. So it's just, it's a neat thing. I know a guy that he started out that way and he ended up being like three characters in a Shrek movie. Like, because that's how you progress,
Can I
right?
be a hand model?
Maybe, hey, maybe. But
No.
yeah, so when it talks about how you spend your time, you want to spend it with intention. So one of the things is what I was just mentioning, finding income that aligns with your values and passions, right? Work smart, not hard. And it might mean that you're doing it like you with your book or your music. You're doing it in parallel with something else, but hopefully at some point that there'll be a shift in there, right? But the other things are nurturing relationships that are positive. That's another thing, right? Instead of nurturing relationships that don't serve you well, right? You're wasting a lot of time and a lot of energy. So it's important to realize that it's okay to say no. And a lot of times that's where we have issues, right? Setting boundaries and barriers, learning where to say no. And that doesn't mean you have to 100% cut somebody off, but just knowing where that barrier is. Another thing is engage, and it ties in with Teresa actually, engaging in activities that evoke awe, right?
Yep.
So when you're like exploring nature, doing acts of kindness, they're the sort of things that evoke awe, which is great. Another thing which sort of ties in with what you were saying, staying present. So being mindful, appreciating the moment. This moment right now, 7:29 on June 1st, p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right?
Yep.
Appreciating my apple juice. My internet was down for 8 hours yesterday. I'm,
Oh,
oh man. And we had four kids here, three kids, four, yeah, three and a crying baby. Yeah, it wasn't the best time, Kojiko. But anyways, appreciating the moment. I got to rein it back in. Next thing, self-reflection, right? Like, I think it's a really big thing that a lot of us learned during COVID, or at least I did, that it's okay to just do nothing today. It's okay to not have the dishes done. You know, an aha moment for me is I have an option of if I answer the door or not. Doesn't matter if my car's in the driveway. And I'm doing like now that I have this new life that I sleep a lot, I'm doing that more. But for a lot of people, that's hard. That's hard. They feel like, well, if they say no and don't go to all the parties, somebody's going to be disappointed. Right. So I think, self care is a priority. It's not selfish. And there's nothing wrong with saying no. The next thing, explore your passions. So, your hobbies, your interests that bring you joy. Like, I love that you're getting back into your music. And then the last thing here, self care, healthy meal prep is something that it ties in with time. And then, of course, it ties in with quality of life. But, we waste a lot of time making things, preparing, right? So, if we do more things at one time, and a land, good for you, food prepping while we're talking here. But yeah, just whip it in some containers. I mean, dollar store has that, frugal Michelle says dollar store has everything you need to container your stuff up. So instead of 5 different times chopping cucumber or whatever it is, get in there and just do it, right? And then it's done. Then you have more time for activities, for spa days, for book clubs, whatever it is that interests you, even just sitting outside in your back lovely little garden, having your coffee, naming the squirrels and the birds, right?
See, here, let me
Yeah,
throw in.
throw it in.
I'm not being the
You
because
are.
we're talking about food, right?
We're talking about time. What?
Well, but we're talking about prepping.
Oh, for sure. Yep.
So, but the gist to get the gist is I'm just kind of playing the other side of it, right?
There is no other
I
side.
like, well, I just that if I did that, I think my whole life, but I would have the same conviction now. I'm not wired that way, but I don't take a lot of time to cook. So for me to spend hours on now, I did, by the way, I did this in restaurants. I spent lots of times prepping for
Maybe
the,
you have trauma.
no, I just don't like, this sounds terrible. Now I'm being like
It's
picky.
not the Tom
I,
show.
I don't like the quality of most frozen things. I just don't like
Oh,
it.
that I no, I agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But for me, because it's about time,
Never sacrifice joy.
I can, like yesterday, Ethan and I had pasta. So easy peasy pasta was a tomato sauce. I didn't make a meat sauce, anything like that, right? It was ready to go in 15 minutes. No prep, a little bit of like garlic or whatever, but it was
Nice.
it
Yep.
was rotini. We had some cheese, so that's like lazy, right? But part of it for me, and again, it's my wiring, and I think families that we don't do this very well. That and what I believe, what I hear, but families that would cook together. And I have a picture of Ethan in my little frame I told you about,
Yeah.
and he's standing on this chair. He's like, I don't know, he's a little like he's got 4 foot, he's 4 feet
I think
tall, or
all
no, he's actually
families cook
three,
together.
sitting on the chair. He's got an apron around him. He's got the
Yeah.
little chef hat on, right? And, but talking about time, but those times are priceless. I
So
think
priceless.
so the thing, what you're talking about, like, making time and having control of your time for how you are, we live in. So I want to say, like, food to me is like it would be like, remember you'd go to the bars like just for live music and that, right?
Yeah.
So and I don't I wouldn't go because I would play music at home and people drag, like, it's different but it's the same, right? But the thing I was saying is that in our time right now, I think one of the enemies of time, like if we had a survey and we said, okay, what do you want to do with your 24 hours? If you could do anything, nothing will stop you.
Yeah.
What would you want to do? Now you got to have sleep and work, like bathroom, like obvious, right? And but what we live in a world now is that you have to work like sometimes 2 jobs to pay for food
Yeah,
and
but
rent.
that's why you have to. look at other options. You don't, you're putting yourself in a box. And I think with the, like even with the batch cooking, I'm not saying start it as a new activity.
No,
I'm
no.
saying if you're going to chop up one, chop up three. That's
Yeah.
all at the same time. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And I know lots of people, I know lots of women that do that because most of the men don't cook, by the way. But I know lots of women that prep up. No, I'm serious. I have
I
guys that are
know,
my age
I'm
that don't know how
listening.
to cook.
Yeah,
No clue, right? But but yeah, going back to what you're saying, I would use that same principle. Say, if you're going to, it's manage time management, right?
it
If you're
is
going
exactly
to,
right.
if like where do you, what's your goal? Where do you want to go, and how do you get there? You and me talk about meditating, right? And I'm going to put the word meditating slash rest, mind body, like whatever it, people can do that we probably wouldn't call meditating, but it probably is though. But it's this thing of like, what do you do in the midst of a busy world? What do you do to not answer the door, put your mind and body in a place of just chill out? If you listen to music, if you listen to a meditation thing, if you like just to slow everything down, because now people might not agree with me, but in this age where, what did you say last week, or was it earlier today? You said, oh my word, we're already in June.
It was 15 minutes ago,
Okay, see, time is irrelevant to me.
apparently.
But you know what I mean. So, but if you have a value, like if you want to free up time so you don't have to work two jobs, we'll say, right?
Yeah,
Now I'm being the practical Tom, not organic Tom, but part of it is like, what do I do to hit my goal, my desire? And if it's whatever it is, inventing something new, a
sure.
new service, something teachable online, it it almost never falls into your lap. You have to work at it. You have to have a plan.
We have to have
So
an idea. It all starts with an idea.
that's right. So what I
Like,
was looking at, so I don't know if you've heard this before. I love this quote from years ago. It says, thoughts lead to actions, actions lead to habits, habits lead to lifestyle, lifestyle leads to your destiny, right?
yep.
So, but here's the thing I was thinking with all we're talking about. Who knows? In a week from now, I may go, you know what? Because I want to make meals for Mom and Shirley, I'm going to do a prep day on Sunday.
Yeah. Who
Now,
knows?
by the way, I have done those frozen meals for Mom and stuff like that, right? But here's the funny thing, Michelle. I'm finding now, not that I'm blowing up my life and going to live off the grid. Part of me probably wants to, um, but you know what it is? It's, am I willing to recenter my life, or am I going to be stuck? I'm going to use the word a trap of your word, stinking thinking, um, trying to do things the way I thought things should have been done in the 80s or 90s or whatever, right? And part of that to me is going like, I want to be healthy now. What does that mean? It means a whole bunch of things that I, in whatever doses that I didn't do before, right? I like sports. I didn't do any type of exercise. I'm not love exercise by the way either, right? Sleeping. I've been working hard. And you have any ideas? My body and my brain probably needs for me to sleep more. Now, if I sleep more, that'll be more functional to do writings, books, music, um, our shows, whatever, right?
It
So
shows.
so that's just my 2 cents saying like, if you want to keep the same lifestyle, keep doing the same stuff, right?
Sure.
If you want to better your life, whatever.
Right. And that could include changing the way you spend your time. So let's take all the work stuff aside, because clearly that got upsetting.
That's what,
But
sorry.
the living off the grid thing. So I didn't mean to like get super serious into that. But if you look at even your own spare time, when I look at tips for time management, we already talked about saying no, but avoiding multitasking. That's an issue that can really distract us. So if you know that you go to bed at whatever time, you're home from work at whatever time, you go to bed at whatever time, and that's your in between, what are you spending that time doing? So are you distracted on social media? Are you going down a bunch of rabbit holes that don't interest you? Are you doing other things that maybe don't necessarily need to be done in that time period? So the one thing that I saw mentioned a lot was, yeah, stay present in the moment and avoid multitasking. I can start a lot of jobs and finish none. I
Yeah.
have that so down to a science because I'm spreading myself out too thin. And then I look around, and that doesn't give me motivation, a sense of pride that I completed a job. It just has you sort of chasing your tail, right? The other
Right.
thing that was recommended, use reminders. There's nothing wrong with setting a reminder on your phone that it's time to go and just play your guitar for a while.
Yeah.
Go and sit out in the backyard, or get it, whatever that happiness is for you. Here in our community, I could set it to go and sit by the river and just watch the waves crash and the tankers go down under the bridges, you know watch a sport. I was in a meeting recently, and I was joking about how unsporty I am, which you know that to be true. But I was saying, I would go see any sport live though, whether I understand it or not, because it's the environment, it's the cheering, it's the energy from all the other people. It's, the fan cam, whatever. And that excites me. I wouldn't even care who the teams are, what the game is, right? But like, I've been to lacrosse games, I've been to baseball games, hockey games, all sorts of stuff in my life, but it wasn't the game, it was the environment, right? So think of how many times over, and I know what you were saying about, doing like that off, like I love watching the off the grid stuff. That window's passed for me. That's
Yeah.
nothing, but I like watching, right? But that being said, like I get some really neat ideas from there. How if I wanted to spend more time in the yard and do like gather my own rainwater, right? Like you don't have to go to Canadian Tire to buy everything. So that's really neat how you do different things, or how different have you ever watched Clarkson's Farm? It's on Prime. It's British. It's not too bad. Jeremy Clarkson, I never knew who he was, but Al does. He's some famous guy, and I think he did some game show in England. Anyways, he's got this on Prime, and he bought a farm and he's working it. So he's experimenting. He's got sheep, and then that, I don't know, that didn't go so good. Now he's got cows, and same thing. Like you think, and I think about these people that are going down. There's a guy I was watching this morning, that guy that was in Lake Superior. And I'm trying to think of where he is. Like I'm listening to him talking, and he's not talking about Thunder Bay. Later on, he mentions the Sleeping Giant, which is the big island
Yeah.
and national park in Thunder Bay. But that's how I figure out that's where he is. But as he's talking, and it's him and his partner, they're on like a 10-day journey, and I'm thinking time is standing still for them. Like they are just following a paper map. They're not living off the grid or anything. They just have tents and whatever, but they got all the right equipment, and time has stood still. When Nicole and I got in the car and we drove out west 10 years ago, time pretty much stood still. It was the same days, and I called in and did my radio show. I don't know if you know that. They put me live. It was like on location. It was pretty cool. But besides that, that was like my only contact. My phone was crappy. It didn't connect. You'd know that from your drive. Doesn't connect half the time, right? The GPS doesn't work half the time. But what and for your adventure, like those moments, priceless, fulfilled, tuned in. Let me go through my list. You're present, you're mindful, you're connecting with nature. Like that's really my jam right now. Like I need the lottery, damn it. I'm
See,
not going to be living off the grid. I'll be a princess, but I want to be on this water, and just the trails and the four-wheelers and
so so
Fun,
here's a few thoughts, right? Because I
fun.
love that, right?
Yeah.
Because what's easy to do is to try to live, which I'm not saying is bad, by the way, try to live through somebody else's experience.
Oh,
That's
100%.
but I
Absolutely.
but I wrote it. So one of the things I wrote, and you can laugh at me,
I will.
I wrote Confessions of a Multitasker. That's me.
Oh, yep, I think it's most of us. We're
Yeah.
programmed that way.
So, but here's what I would say. How do I um, multitasking, if somebody doesn't know, means doing a lot of things like pretty much all the time, right? So I
At
know
the
how to
same time.
balance for the most part. I multitask with my work, the type of work that I do,
Yep,
because I have to. I have
that's
projects,
different.
different things, and deadlines just the way it is, same as with you, right?
Yeah,
But then when I come to my time away from work, and I don't work hours, I get a salary based on performance, right?
yeah,
So if I hit my targets in 20 hours, work 20 hours. If I need to work 70, just the industry I'm in, right?
yeah,
I don't work 70. But sometimes I have to do a weekend. I like to do a Saturday morning, go see a customer, right? So to
sure.
me, this idea of reining in this mindset of driven's a word, but um, it's very mechanical. It's like people that go to the gym. I think I told you at my gym, it had this thing on the wall. It says, if you have to, if you feel you have to go to the gym, you will fail. If you want to go to the gym, you'll succeed. So mindset, right? So when you talked about, we're talking about this guy, and we're talking about inspiration, right? So I was again when you're talking, so I'm thinking of me. I'm thinking like my process, right? And I was thinking inspiration. Um, and this got nothing to do with your saying. You just triggered. I'm old. Trigger stuff for me, right? But I was saying inspiration. Does it always have to lead to an action? So I'm asking myself that question. And depending on your mindset, if you're entrepreneurial, whatever, or depending, where you're wired, it a lot of times kind of develops and stirs up this idea because we're idealists type things. Not bad, right?
Right.
But so that's our mean you going across the country with a certain thing, a goal. You went across to do hugs across Canada. I
Yep,
went across to do stories across Canada.
yep,
Those two things were the focus, the drive at the beginning.
for
And like you
sure.
just said, coming back for you, Nicole, and me coming back, even though we did that, like how much more, like you talked about not having like I have a new car, right? So I had probably better Bluetooth than you, but I left the car off. You know what? Sometimes I had music for fun. Sometimes during the prairies I had CBC. A lot of times, Michelle, I had nothing. I
I had
had
Nicole.
I had quiet,
Hmm.
and I have some pictures. I don't know if I've ever shown you. I stopped in this place in northern Ontario, and on this side, this lake, the rounded rocks and the trees. This has been there for millions of years, however long, right? On the other side is this broken down motel that man has made, that somebody
Yep.
made the motel, and it had been ransacked and tagged and drug, and it's like an hour out of town. So I'm
No
saying, people.
copper, probably no copper.
So what it made me think of, like not in the moment, I took pictures, so it made me think of later. This is the way I'm wired. This goes with time, by the way. It made me think of like what lasts. What to me, my conviction. What are the important things that last? What's important to
Yep,
me?
yep,
You and me are very similar. That we sometimes we're the last person we're thinking of. We're thinking of
for
our
sure.
family, right?
That's right.
Not always a bad thing, but there's balance, right? So the thing I was thinking, one of the other things I wrote down, last thing was, um, to me, this organic component, this spontaneous, this whatever you or people are, whatever balance to focus, right?
Yeah.
For me, Michelle, so you enjoy sports way different than me. When you shared about sports, inside I gasped a little bit,
Did you?
but I'm
Okay.
not like
Yep.
I don't get angry and cry if my team doesn't win. But
Okay.
I'm a dude. I'm a sports guy. Well, not all dudes, guy, right? But I was thinking about this, like the shows you and me watch. I think for a part of it, I actually think that's true for both of us, for most of the time. It might take us away or do whatever, be a healthy distraction, but we're not trying to recreate that dream. But there's something in it organically. I think it's a part of our being a human being that likes to dream and likes to do whatever, like watching series like Lord of the Rings, if you're into that style, or watching like whatever, like to me, fantasy. Not everybody likes fantasy. There's something about that, and I think it's healthy for the most part. Like my dead time, Michelle. I'm trying to get better. I'll sit and have the TV on. Right now, I'm watching Z Nation, which is about
Oh,
zombies.
are you? Okay. It's on my
It's
list.
it's okay. Like it's not
I
it, but
remember watching bits years ago.
when I'm watching it, and then like I'm seeing how my daughter's doing. Like I have a few distractions, right?
Yeah.
But you know what I'm trying to do now is if I'm going to watch something, and by the way, I do it for hockey. I just don't watch. I'm not glued at hockey, and like it doesn't
No,
get my
right,
blood, right?
right.
But I'm realizing for some of this, I need to put away my distractions.
That's right.
But you know why it's important? Because I need to, for me, to create that habit. Because as confessions of a multitasker, I subconsciously go, "What the heck?" Just I did this morning. Be proud of me. I spent 2 hours writing my book,
Good.
like working on my book. Right.
Yeah, good.
The only time I went up and got a glass of water, and I think went to the bathroom. Right. But my brain was like, "Turn the TV on." I said, "No, no, turn the TV on." I like white noise and stuff. So it's interesting about time. So I'm like, I have to reprogram me a little bit, not because I
Absolutely.
think I'm bad. It's because what I want.
But we're
By
also
the way,
creatures of habit. We're creatures of habit.
silly thing. I don't know if you've heard this because I'm a talker. You're a talker. We're a good team, and we do well to listen to each other, and we know how to jump in or whatever. A
Yeah.
friend of mine taught me this. Not whatever. I don't want to say kind of friend. He's not my friend right now. Was like I don't hate him, but he taught me when talking about listening because I have a habit of thinking of responding to what you're saying as I've been doing. He says, put your finger in your mouth or whatever to help you focus on listening to what somebody's saying.
Oh,
So I
interesting.
have to do that in counseling, right?
Yeah.
Because my brain, the multitasker, so confessions, and because what I do for work, all this stuff, I'm working through response. So through counseling that I've been through, like different things I'm learning, right? I have to go, what's Michelle saying to me? What? Don't put me
I
on the
don't
spot.
know. No, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Oh my God. I think that's the difference between how men's brains and women's brains work. Like with Al, he likes me to get right to the point. Don't beat around the bush. Just what do you need? What get to
He
the
would
end
have a
of the
hard,
story.
he couldn't live in your house, right?
He does, yeah.
No, but I couldn't live in your house. I would drive him nuts.
Yeah, you totally would. It's taken us 28 years to figure out our flow. I'll
I love
tell
it.
you. Oh my goodness. But yeah, I think yeah, and it's so funny because like with those shows, so I'm big into being my own research and development department. I'm always trying to I actually started a journal the last couple weeks where I'm tracking medical things, but also other things like how much I'm working out, how much I'm meditating. Because I mean, I bet I've meditated once for 30 minutes in the last month. Like it's just like every other human on the planet. We get into it for a while and then life gets busy, or once I'm out of it for a while, it takes me a couple times to be able to just stop talking about that I need milk in my head or whatever. Like that you revert back, but then you come back quicker. But but in all that, I'm going to be also putting in there different things just to give me joy, like time in the garden, all that stuff. So I think, like, for everybody, whatever it is, like with me watching those shows, that's where I was going. It's, I don't want to be there with them, but I'm like cheering them on. I know it's going to have a happy ending, or they wouldn't have uploaded it. Let's be real. It's like, it's not going to end up that the cabin's on fire. It's totally not. It's going to be a happy ending. Or I've seen a couple where they're like the one they brought their kids, terrible idea, and they were uneducated and they put the cart before the horse. They quit by like February, and I was quite impressed that they even put the video up. But it's just for me, it's learning, and it's just I watched this one video and it was a guy, he made a little cabin, and a lot of time it's on their hunt camps or whatever, and he made it out of pallets and hay. It was so cool, and some sort of plastic wrap. And it was so cool. And there was no audio besides "Nah, chop, 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 chop. Nah, I want a chainsaw now." But there's like that was it, and it was just so relaxing. There was no flashing lights. It was just calming and relaxing. And yeah, because I find all the other, I'm just exhausted of media right now. I'm taking a media break. Like I deke in and I check out like a couple things more out of habit than anything, and then I go back to this stuff that's never going to affect my life, but it's very calming, and I feel good and I like them, and I feel like there's thousands of them. Same as the traveling ones. I like to stick to Canada. It's my preferred country. But
Prejudice.
what's that?
You're prejudiced. No, I'm joking.
Yeah. No. So, and the reality is, I've always been a Canada, like even in a border city, I rarely would go over there. I worked for a company that we all lost our jobs. They went to the States. I'll pay a dollar more to pay for Canadian. But that's not new.
Yeah.
My elbows stay in position at all times. I'm the same
See, I
person.
wouldn't like we were talking about earlier, well, over the last while about buying from Canadian
Yeah.
products, supporting Canadian, right? For me, you said, I think you've told me that the only time you're overseas, you went to England when you were young, right?
I was in England, yeah. But
You
the
were like,
States,
oh, I don't go to the States.
no, that's what I was just talking about, though.
But would you
Like
go overseas?
when I was 4.
No, would you now?
Oh, would I now?
If
Oh,
you win the lottery, would you travel to Italy, Greece?
that doesn't really interest me. I don't think so.
See,
No, I
for
don't.
me, for me, so this is so the good news, like me and Michelle do this quite often. We're different, right? The
Thank
thing is,
goodness.
yeah, I'm a whatever. Anyway, for me, when I had a chance for the first time to go overseas, went to England and went to Greece for 10 days, whatever, right?
Mhm.
My world shifted. Now I've watched all these shows because I like all these types of shows. Right now, I'll send you a couple and you can laugh at me. Now dog reels, I get more dog reels show up on my thing than cats now because I've
Oh,
retrained my
funny.
algorithms.
Yep.
Dogs are hilarious, but they're wuss. And but I'm getting these little like vacation or these little hidden spots and like bluest oceans and seas and talk about psychology. Some of these places, like I don't. When I was in Greece, I didn't have to go to the Blue Island, Santorini, where everybody
Right. Of
goes to
course.
pictures, right?
Right.
I want to go to these urban, like
Yep.
hill villages, right?
Yep.
But here's the thing, and I know you know this too. There's something about some of the stuff we watch that are calming. It's why they have on my smart TV, why they have a fish
Yeah.
tank
I got
channel,
one too. Yep.
right? But here, so for me, what I wrote down because you challenged me without meaning to. I'm going to write down for the next while what I'm watching.
Oh,
So
do it. Great
so
idea.
I'm at this point. I recognize what TV is for me. It's a bit of a dopamine type thing, not in a
Yep.
bad way. I watch zombie type stuff, not because I want to be a zombie. They're
Debatable.
they're just. I wrote down. I watch reality TV. Then I put why, and I don't watch like I say too. I don't watch like Bachelor that stuff. There's
No.
all of these interesting reality TVs, and the reason I wrote this down, Michelle, is in it. What's happening now with these shows, even shows like the talent shows, right? They have changed the way they're trying to grab their
Of
audience.
course,
They're
absolutely.
now using the power of story and not this big, like shows like Big Brother and that. I don't watch those, never have, right? But those shows, from things I see write-ups, are becoming less thing. And then you have what did they just have on Survivor, where they had this girl that was on the spectrum, and she had this moment. Now some people say, well, it's all whatever people do, right? But what happened is this happened a while ago. Some of these shows where they didn't have to pay, like Friends, where they were paying each star like $500,000 for
Percent.
each episode,
Yep,
all of a sudden they can offer a prize of 1 million or whatever, and they get real people. And they
exactly.
do it because we usually connect with one, or we might hate one or whatever, right? But it's just interesting. So when you were saying, I was thinking, man, going, okay, my downtime, and I'm processing my physical and mental health right now.
Yeah, good.
So I know what I need to do, but I know how to make sure I'm not putting stress on my life, right?
Right.
One day at a time, one step at a time. We talk about that, right? But I was thinking about like the things I watch, even like the 90,000 movies I've shared on here.
Hmm.
There's a lot of that is very inspirational. Z Nation isn't inspirational. Walking Dead wasn't inspirational. I watch shows about the universe and kind of these fringe things, like thoughts that some of my church friends would probably judge me. I'm not going to be sold. Somebody's not going to sell me like a bag of rocks, right? But I find it interesting listening to some of these perspectives outside of mine, right? I watched
Exactly.
this alien thing talking about things that um, cross history in different cultures. And do they have a point they're going to, like, oh, like this shows aliens were everywhere, whatever? Like that's fine, right? But I'm okay. I'm not threatened to learn or to listen to somebody's different point of view, right? So in all this talking about time, in it though, I need to be honest about the time, what I'm doing, and
Exactly.
talking about this. So am I spending 8 hours meditating on TV
Mm,
to only 4 hours sleeping?
right?
Blah blah blah, right? But I don't want to drive myself, be driven, hard driven, because of the work industry I'm in. But if I realize it's a value, if I go, you know what, this is important for me, and if it's important to
Sure.
me, then I need to be willing to take a step.
Right.
I may take a half step back, but take a step.
We learn as we go, right?
Yeah,
Like, and I think it's important that we realize these limited beliefs are hard coded in there.
we need
So
to talk about that again, actually.
yeah, and it's going to take a process, right? It's like when you're not like this is something I'm dealing with. Not working full time makes me incredibly guilty. And it's ridiculous. I put in my fair share. I paid taxes since I was upright. I started working at 13, 14, babysitting, paper route, whatever. I'm not that far from retirement, but it's still it's so I this is the conversation. The one saying one thing, the other one saying, no, you're supposed to be at work regardless. Work if you're half alive. It doesn't matter. Don't be a
You think
baby,
that was
right?
from your family?
What's that?
The English are very strong on being hard workers.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. For
Dawn
sure.
to dusk, right? Dawn to dusk.
Yeah, exactly right. And giving, giving, giving all the time. So, yeah, it's just so interesting. So, it's just like how people struggle with self care. Well, how can I make everybody wait? And so I can, let's say, I decide I want to have a spa day, and or it wouldn't be a whole day, but a spa a couple hours. And they can only book me in at the time where I would be making dinner for the family. Very kind. I'm probably not the best example because I already know what I'd tell my family. But for a lot of people, and it took me years to learn how to do that, to say, you know what, they can manage. I don't have to be the one making it all the time. This is what happens when the grandchildren come, right? I step into mom mode, and then every once in a while I stop back and I think, hey, I'm the mom to the people in their 30s. What's happening here? right? So that priority. So it's so interesting because that's the limited belief that, don't be selfish, right? And it's so funny because if you said to me, hey, you're being selfish having that spa time, you should be here making us dinner, then who's selfish? The person who's saying that to me, right? And then the other part of that is, what do you do when you're in an airplane? If you're on an airplane and it's going to go down, you need the oxygen first before you can help the other people. So that analogy was actually a really good aha moment for me, right? To realize that it is important that we look after ourselves.
So my ending piece with that
Yep.
is the reason I watch the apocalyptic and kind of zombie stuff, like for fun,
Hmm.
is because where we live, there's at some point somewhere in the future is going to be a big earthquake. It's
Oh,
the
right.
the
That's right.
fault or whatever, right? So one of the things I ask people, this is I'm being funny here because you're saying about the spa day and that. So for me, I watch some of these shows because um, if an earthquake happens and everything's out and you can't buy food and you're
Yep.
without food and power for 2 weeks and you forgot to have some, canned and dry there, are you going to go steal from your neighbor because he's 80 years old and you can take him because you're thinking of yourself? For no, I'm joking, right?
Mm.
Are you going to be like this wrestle of, well, we're talking about spa, and that is like, I'm being silly, right? I've gone to the spa a few times myself. um,
There you go.
but it's interesting on your core character, just kind of what you would do, right? If a child was in the middle of the road and a car's flying at the car, like flying to hit, gonna hit the child, without thinking, what's your first reaction? And I wouldn't even, like, honestly, Michelle, I wouldn't even guilt somebody who like is hesitant in these things, but because I've been in those situations. I've been in a situation where I saw somebody being stabbed to death
Oh, wow.
within across the street from me, right? This is years back. And you're in a surreal thing, right? So going back to self-care, I just what I believe, right? If you don't learn to take care of yourself, not that nobody will, whatever, that's not, I don't like that saying, but at some point in your life, you're going to have some regret, right? You maybe needed
Sure.
self-care physically, mentally, just enjoying, like Teresa going these trips with her girlfriends. Not wrong with that, right?
That's right.
So I think it's with ending on time, not on time, but on the subject of
We're
time.
pretty close, though. We're
Yeah.
pretty close.
But it's like I reset almost every day. Like, and there's core things that I know I want to do. So they I don't put them in a time slot. I
Right.
had, by the way, I had a friend that will put on a calendar on the fridge when he put a little X on the days him and his wife would sleep together.
Oh, my word.
I can't do it. I'm too spontaneous.
TMI,
I know, sorry.
TMI.
But some people need, that's just the way they're wired. I can't be that way, right? But what I was going to end with, and we'll talk about down the road, I was looking at videos before we came on, right? And me and Michelle are on this journey of, we believe what we're doing, we like what we're doing. But I looked at I was just looking at some of the views, just scrolling. And one of the ones that had no views from last year was enabling.
Oh, interesting.
Now, I don't think it had no views because the topic was enabling. I
Right.
think me and Michelle last year took this time to kind of create and kind of figure out how we want to do things, right? But you mentioned something earlier. I think we should talk about enabling self-care. Maybe we said a lot of
Yeah,
things, but
absolutely. Yep.
but this in this time right now, we need. In my opinion, we need, within the time we have, to make sure we're taking care of ourselves, right? I just finished a course on political and social anxiety, and thank God, I don't care whatever sides win. Thank God elections are over,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
because it's deep breath. Because now you can't change or have an effect, and now you weren't like hoping, wishing, whatever, right? And but social anxiety of tariffs, and I need to work, like all this pressure on us.
Hmm.
So now we take a breath and we go, okay, if I don't want to work a job and a half every day, how can I work, you said earlier, smarter? What do I do to
Exactly.
change this?
Think outside the box, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. We have more control than we think. And a lot of times we're just, chaos is just going by, and it's like we're on a moving sidewalk. Just the world's just pulling us through. And it's time to jump off and choose joy, right? And just, by intention, turn the phone off, leave it. I love leaving, it drives Nicole, my daughter, crazy, but I'll leave it on my phone, especially when I'm not expecting anything, I guess, that I would need it for. I'll leave it on the charger for hours, out days if I could. I just totally, yep, absolutely. And sometimes I think because I'm so tied to it for Sonia Rocks and Weight Watcher, all the different things that I do. But I mean, I get it to the person that has 50 friends that only goes on to see who's having a baby or splitting up or whatever, right? I totally get that because when we're so connected, it's mentally and physically draining. So, picking whatever, like right now, my happy place outside. Got tomatoes in, I got cucumbers in, strawberries and raspberries. I'll be ready to barter.
Do you have your shoes and socks off?
Not, oh, I do actually right now, but yeah, when
No, I
I
mean
get out there,
outside.
absolutely. Yeah, I just got to watch out for the Kevin bombs.
Oh, okay, yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
You said Kevin, I was thinking of the Minions, Kevin.
No, he's
Um,
bigger.
yeah, but and here's the hard thing with that for me, and I'm not like putting this. I'm not paranoid. I shouldn't say that. Um, I have like with work and then also without a work, I have a certain expectation on communication, right?
Right.
So if I'm at work, if somebody's my bosses or national directors or customers, we have it's not a hard rule, but it's in about we want to get back within a couple hours.
That's
It's
the kind of job you have. Yeah, exactly.
etiquette, right? Now, outside
Well,
of
it's
etiquette,
part of your salary too, though, right?
yeah, but
Yeah.
outside of etiquette, I
I,
have people that I do work with. Some are with music, so we'll have schedules for practice,
yeah.
and some are counseling and stuff like that. And so my etiquette, I'm not married to the phone at these times, but my etiquette is like my expectation is like there should be communication within 2 days.
Oh,
Right?
absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
I have people, and like you said, turning the phone off. I was twitching. That's why I was twitching a little bit. I'm going because now I'm going. Unfortunately, OCD. I'm like now, and it's my issue, by the way. It's not their issue. They're just not. Well, I think they're not being responsible, right? But then I'll ask the question, what's the best way to communicate to you? Because I want to be off this thing. I don't want to be married to it, right?
Yeah.
Right now, I'm married to it because what's happening in Alberta, where my daughter is.
Right. Well,
And
yeah, but that too will pass. There's going to come a
yeah,
time that's a memory.
yeah. So part of what it is it's finding out what you control or what controls you.
Exactly. That's really the first question.
Hashtag. No.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. What a great chat today. I think yeah, we'll pick any of those topics for next week and they sound fabulous. Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, thanks for joining us everybody. Alan, I hope you got all your food situated. Great to have you with
Love it.
us.
Yep.
Everybody else for sure. And like and subscribe. And we will see you next week. Same time, same place, same channel, same everything, right, Tom? You think
Yep.
so? Does it sound right?
Da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na.
Ah, there you go. All right. Bye, everybody. Take care.
So funny.
That is so funny.
I was distracted by the TV with us being big.
Oh, yeah.